Well, it's been a long time coming, but today is the day. On this show, you have these people in your life that you really respect and admire in many ways, not just in business, but in life. And today, I have one of those people on the show. I have Ross Haley. He is the CEO. President, founder of LBS Distribution, but he's so much more. Welcome to the Mark Haney Show, Ross. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing, Mark. It's an honor to be here.
Well,
always excited to hang out with you.
Well, the privilege is mine, and today is kind of the first time, shockingly, that you've ever been on the show. And then I think also because I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time, and I think at first time I talked to you about it, you're like, well, I really don't want to. Come on right now. I don't want to draw a bunch of attention to myself. And then I think you hit me up a little, maybe 6 to 12 months ago, and you say, I'm okay with it now. And so maybe you can give us a little bit of your background. 'Cause let me back up a little bit, because this is the first time I've ever used the word marijuana on the show, pot. We've never talked about cannabis on the show, which is kind of ironic. I don't know. All these years we've been doing the show, we were talking, doing a show once a week for like 7 or 8 years. Never had anybody on the show talking about cannabis until now. But today's the day. So how you doing, man? And you want to give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. And I think it's telling of the signs around cannabis. Legalization's happening, and so it's becoming it's becoming so much more. Mainstream, I guess, even if it's not the use of, but it's the conversation around and the acceptance of, right? So excited to talk about cannabis, publicly. I've been in cannabis my entire life. It's been around me, born and raised Northern California, Bullard's Bar Lake. It's a place pretty close to here to Sacramento, about an
great
hour and a half
place
out.
to take a boat,
Place.
but I guess
Wonderful.
It's a great place
grows cannabis well too.
To grow cannabis.
The climate's good for tomatoes and all kinds of of gardens. So I've just been around cannabis my whole life. Being a young guy who had access to cannabis based on where I'm from, and Proposition 215 with the medical movement in California happening, it quickly became my entrepreneurial spirit was. I think I was born with it, because I've always just wanted to do things, and business always excited me. And so I looked at that and said, there's opportunity not only to create business for myself, but also to help, because I watched what cannabis did in my community. The bad part about cannabis was that it was illegal, and so I saw families and good people being prosecuted both publicly and through the system for the use of cannabis. And that was the worst thing that I ever saw about cannabis, was the actual the illegal side of it, where people were getting in trouble.
People getting in
Good
trouble,
people getting
so
in
they're
trouble.
trying to avoid things.
And the best part about cannabis growing up and through my whole entire life was its ability to create health or wellness for people in need, and that was immense. It gives me chills as I sit here today. The plant is such an amazing plant, but it was ridiculed and persecuted by society for the wrong reasons, and so that's my history with cannabis, and I've taken it and done many things with it. It's always been around me, whether I was selling Kirby vacuums, learning about Kirby vacuums, and learning about sales as a young entrepreneur, but having cannabis around me, growing it in my closet, and having it to where I'm at today, and that's licensed cannabis in the state of California, the whole B2B supply chain, which is pretty amazing, pretty exciting.
So I'm going to dive back into your earlier years, but maybe just so people have an idea of the size of your company and really the leadership role you have in the industry. Can you just kind of brought it out there so people can kind of get a sense?
So post Kirby vacuums, I got into ancillary cannabis business, meaning I knew all the cannabis growers and the people, and it was part of my culture and what I did. And I saw this ability to add value to growers and cannabis guys and gals by getting them the right products that they need to grow their cannabis. And so that became my focus. And so it kept me in the network of cannabis and being around it and absolutely understanding all aspects of it, but also gave me a insulated business to grow that I could bank and pay taxes and do all the legal things. So, went from retail sales of those products. So I had retail stores in Truckee, California, Grass Valley, eventually down here in Rockland, Sacramento, and across the West Coast. At the same time, I was building a packaged goods business for the same products that were sold in the store. So I built a branded business of soils and fertilizers. And so sold that company to Scotts Miracle-Gro in 2015. Grew it for my entire youthhood, and for my entire youth, and it was an amazing experience. It allowed me to have access to resources to do what we're doing today, and that's get into the legal side of cannabis as Prop 64 has happened, et cetera. So today we're 150 plus employees. We have 2 acres going to 4 acres of cannabis flower or flowering canopy, and we manufacture, distribute packaged branded goods in cannabis, the actual flower and oils and pens and edibles and all those things. So I maybe a long-winded there, but I think I hopefully got to
I
the
think
answer
that's
to the question.
it. I mean, 150 employees, and so yeah, you've had some success in business selling companies, and then now sort of relaunch, but it's a very good sized organization and growing. Yeah. And so what you sell today is you're basically a dealer, right? Or you have the whole supply chain, right? So you
Our
grow.
slogan's everyone's favorite dealer.
Is that right? Yeah. What brand? Now your company is called LBS. Is that sort of supposed to be like for pounds? The LBS, yeah, pounds. Okay. Yeah. And then, but you have different brands within the organization.
Yeah. So the LBS, or Pounds Distribution, is the distribution arm. So it's the warehousing, the packaging, and the last mile movement to resellers, so retailers across the state. But it houses, its job is to distribute brands, so packaged goods for in any brand that makes sense for the business to carry and sell. So Puff Pre-rolls is one of our largest brands. It's all ready to use cannabis, and pre-rolls, the slogan there is let us roll this one for you. And so and then West Coast Trees, a flower brand, and Northern California flower brand, an indoor brand. Edibles with Self Baked is a great company. Young entrepreneur started this company, and so we're distributing his brand for him. That's LBS in a nutshell.
Do you sell distribute through LBS more of your own product or other people's?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Prop 64 allowed for California licensed cannabis. It also created a lot of regulation and rules around licensed cannabis. So the market went from medical retail dispensaries in California that were what we call deli style. Somebody'd show up at the back door, knock on the back door, sell them large bags of cannabis, and when they sold it to their customer, they would literally weigh it in front of them like you would weigh meat in a deli. And the new regulation required that everything is, for consumer protection, packaged in finished packaged goods. So it has the regulatory information on every package that a consumer will purchase. That created consumer protection, a way to track product so that they, for tax purposes and licensing purposes, but it created all of a sudden this giant need for packaging cannabis, which no one had built out before, right? There was no need to package cannabis except for when it got to the very last dealer who would put it into the bags of vapes and weigh it down to whatever the consumer was buying, whether that's what we'll call the traditional market now or the medical market at the time. So back to the point of the story is this created this need for a lot of packaging and people to figure out how to package it and you had to do it in the licensed facility, so you couldn't go use somebody else was packaging something else. You had to create this. So there's this bottleneck that created issues for us to bring on distributed goods. Our original purpose was to say, hey, we'll just buy somebody else's packaged goods and resell them as a distributor. That's what a distributor does. And there weren't a lot of companies that could supply enough product to fulfill that because everybody's scrambling to try to figure out how to package things, right? So we said, well, how are we going to do this faster? And we said we had to package it ourselves too. So we created our own third-party packaging, so to speak, for flour, pre-rolls, concentrates, all the products that you would see now in a dispensary. Okay. And then we said, well, how do we get more brands in here? And so, brands weren't really available. People that were doing it themselves were having scaling issues, and so they were doing it themselves if they were any good. And people who were not, had an idea but didn't know how to take it anywhere, weren't really set up to accelerate their brand in the space. So we had to create our own. In hindsight, it worked out really well, because now we have a couple of the larger brands in the state. And it's a good business to be in. We're better partners to distributed goods companies, because we understand the space so well. We understand what marketing needs are. We understand what sales needs are. But so another long-winded way to say, some of these brands are ours. Some of these brands are exclusive brands that we carry that are not our brands, and some of them are non-exclusive brands. The majority of what we have today is ours or exclusive, but the strategy is to say, in order to be a great distributor for our retail customers, we're going to have to carry more products to give them a better selection and keep more stuff.
So who do you sell to?
Dispensaries and delivery companies in the state of California. So state licensed and compliant resellers of cannabis, so B2C.
Okay, so there's no direct consumer piece.
We are B2B only, so we're everything in the supply chain from seed to wholesale.
Okay, so with the, I'm thinking about compliance, right? So maybe you didn't want to talk about this at one point, because when did it become legal in California?
January 1st, 2018 was the first available state license.
Was that like what? Give me the emotion on that day. You're like, oh, I'm free.
Yeah, it's we got ahead of it. My entrepreneur self, we knew the state licenses were going to happen in January. It was actually voted in late 2016, and that was the real aha for me in cannabis in general, being able to touch the plant in a business. Right. Okay. And that was, it's amazing. Prop 64 has its issues. Cottage growers, the old school cultivators, across Northern California especially, they had some issues with it, because it changed the way they were, creating livelihood. But in the sense of what it did for cannabis is, I think, outweighs all of that. And that is, if you're a California resident, you can grow 6 plants of marijuana, if you're 21 years or older. And that in itself gives every human in the state of California the right to grow and consume cannabis with no risk of law enforcement, no risk of any retaliation from the government. So cannabis is legal in California. So that from the Prop 64 was the coolest thing that happened. And second coolest thing is it created a legal, legitimate marketplace in which we could build business and create brands and distribution and all these different things. So it was a crazy and amazing moment.
What about the challenges associated with it being, it's federally illegal, right? And then only certain states allow it. How do you deal with that issue, and what kind of issues come up because of that?
Yeah, it creates hurdles, large hurdles. I'll start with the hurdles and then talk about the light at the end of the tunnel afterwards. Okay. And the hurdles are banking, right? So we're licensed by our local jurisdiction. We're permitted by a local jurisdiction. We are licensed by the state of California. We pay tax to the state of California and other things. But the federal government has created this issue with banking and not allowing banks to bank cannabis entities even when they're fully licensed by the state. So they forced a lot of cash carrying. So even though I'm a taxpayer, we file every dollar we make. We track our books accurately for the federal government's tax.
So you got to pay the IRS.
Yep.
So it's illegal, but you've got to pay them. If you make a profit.
And they make it really hard to put your money in a bank, and they won't take cash. So, it's
okay.
Let
me
get
this straight. So you have to fill out a federal income tax return for the profits that you might make in your company.
Yep.
Yet you can't put the money in a bank.
Yet they make it very difficult. We've found ways through very smaller credit unions and other things to work, at very, not an easy lift because of compliance issues, other things, but we stay very tight with these guys. We're able to bank, and they make it hard. But most cannabis businesses, especially small entrepreneurial companies, not unable to bank, and even the large ones like ourselves and sophisticated ones like ourselves can find ourselves in a position where we're juggling between banks. And yes, the answer is yes. They don't allow us to put it in a bank, and they do allow us to file a federal tax return, and they do say we owe them money, and then they say they won't take cash, but they make it really difficult for us to have a bank. On top of that, the put a salt in the wound, they have what's called 280E, which is it's a rule around federally illegal substances and the sale of them in a tax code. And then this is layman's terms, so talk to your tax professional. Don't take this as tax advice, but it's just information. And that is, it says you cannot deduct from your income anything other than COGS, cost of goods sold. So any normal business in the United States that pays for a sales guy or pays for fuel in their vans to go out and do sales, all of that SG&A is non-deductible. So you can't
non-deductible with the IRS.
With the IRS. So if you make the effective tax rate on, and it really depends on where the income level is and what part of the business you're in the supply chain is. It's somewhere between 70 and 80% of your income is tax at this point.
Well, I'm not going to get into it. Okay, I feel like diving in harder on that, but it's very personal. I don't want to dive into your personal finances, but I'm like, okay, how do we, and I'm not an accountant either, but I'm looking to create the workaround.
The light at the end of the tunnel is one. There's some great things happening at the federal level that we believe are going to help, and that is
Joe Biden. Is that a help?
Not to date. There's a lot of lip service without any action to this point from Biden and the administration. I think the overall sentiment because of our liberal leader is, I think there's momentum because of Biden, but I've seen no action from Biden specifically.
Okay. I interrupted you. Sorry.
That's okay. The light is we have some movement. The MORE Act is I think at Senate now. And it passed the House. It's at the Senate, which includes some bank reform act in there that allows for licensed cannabis compliant businesses to bank with. Basically, they're going to say we will not prosecute or go after banks that bank with license. So it gives us the ability to bank, right? And that'll free up capital, free up our ability to bank. It does a bunch of things. And then there's some other stuff that's happening, we believe, that will deschedule or reschedule, when we're hoping deschedule cannabis completely, which would allow for, potentially, regular tax reform, non-280E subject. I'm sure they'll find a way to tax it separately and differently, but it will be not this bad. So.
Is there anything coming that's going to make it legal at the federal level?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as well versed in the specific, acts or different things that are kind of being packaged, so to speak, for that. But I know there are a lot, and there are a lot of movements and a lot of conversations. There is liquor and tobacco that are lobbying at the federal level. There's strategic businesses, large strategic companies that see opportunity in cannabis that are lobbying at the federal level that won't play until federal legalization. So, they're pushing along that movement. And, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah.
How many states are legal now?
So there's different. It's moving around so fast. I don't know the number right now off the top of my head, but it's more than half.
Yeah, if they get 50 states,
it's more than half.
How do you?
Yeah, it's more than half, and it's actually I saw this number and I just read it. It's 70% of the population of the United States lives in a state that has legal reform for cannabis.
Goodness, that's interesting. Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's absolute, right? Yeah. How they do it, when they do it, that's going to be the question. Do they do it with they deschedule it and they regulate it right away, or they do it in these baby steps with the MORE Act allowing banking, maybe you do a 280E reform, allowing states' rights to happen. So how it unfolds is to be determined, but when is just when, it's not if. It's happening.
I would think that
it's a worldwide movement too.
Yeah, you think about the amount of cash green running through that business. They're going to want to regulate it, and they're going to want to. the security involved. It's cumbersome in nature to deal with cash.
Oh, security is the biggest issue. They're again allowing for states' rights and allowing the states allowing you to pay them in cash. Yet they won't let you bank in hauling cash around. I mean, you've operated businesses, and maybe in the construction side you get cash payments once in a while. But imagine if every client you had, even your largest ones, had to pay you in cash. You had to go pick it up, or they had to deliver it, and then you have to keep it in safes. And by the way, we don't. So we have banking. Don't come looking for money.
They don't have any cash over at LBS. No cash there.
But
so don't go over there.
Then we don't. But it's. It creates a huge security issue. We were dealing with it early on in 2018 and even into 19. And it kept me up at night. I mean, I did a lot of the driving myself on this stuff and a few of my other founders. But I mean, it's scary to have that kind of cash on you, or to think that somebody thinks you might have that amount of kind of cash on you.
It's interesting. I used to own a bunch of video stores, and a lot of people paid cash for their movies, and that was back. It wasn't before credit cards, but people didn't use credit cards as much, and so we would end up with, we had basically almost like a little armored car thing happening. Yeah.
It creates security issues big time, and it's safety. Like, it's not just about being robbed; it's about somebody getting, losing a life or a limb over, right?
Scott, you're gonna have to delete that from the radio show. We have
Sorry about that.
We're on
I'm
Money
surprised I
105.
went this long without
We're
it.
Also
though.
on Money 105.5, and there are we have our own little regulations here. There's like 7 words you can't say. I think that's one of them.
All right. Poop.
It's happened. It's happened before. Trust me. In fact, I'm not sure if Uriah used an F-bomb or not. I'm not sure, but no, he didn't. But it has happened. Right?
That was an S-bomb, not an F-bomb, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I think.
I practiced on the way here to make sure, because I may use strong language at most times in my life. So.
Anyway, so we have this industry. It's evolving. It's growing. I mean, is there a growth rate associated with the industry at large? That you think about some of the things that are the most. I don't know, like the most interesting things to get into because they're fast growing, and cannabis has got to be toward the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about upside and when you think about growth, it's cannabis. It's really, there's growth in overall cannabis, because you look at cannabis in 2 ways right now. You can look at cannabis as cannabis consumption, period. Any geographic area you want, United States, the world, whatever, right? Cannabis consumption is going up because it's people are finding use of it above, opioids and other things, right? Plus population growth. But the real upside in legal cannabis is that this cannabis world is giant, right? But illegal cannabis is just a small piece of it because it's just starting. And so if you look at California, for numbers that I know, we're talking about doing $7 billion in legal cannabis, when California is probably in the $20 billion range of cannabis, And so as they start regulating or enforcing non-licensed cannabis entities and pushing that cannabis business into the regulated marketplace, that's just monster growth for the licensed cannabis users, and it's monster growth for the state and for the feds at some point from a tax perspective, right? Because they're not getting any of that at this point; they're only getting the part of their $7 billion, and so the growth for the next 10, 15 years probably is going to be. It's definitely over the next 5 to 10. It's huge.
It's interesting because it's still almost the topic of talking about pot or marijuana in a lot of circles. It gets a snicker here and there. It hasn't become mainstream yet. It's obviously progressing that way.
If you use the word cannabis, by the way, that's the new the term that everybody uses for the legal cannabis side is cannabis.
Oh, we
and
call
I don't
it
know
wacky
why.
tobacco.
I know. Exactly. Left-handed cigarette. Pot, weed. Dope, I heard was a young kid. My grandparents would call it dope.
Yeah.
But it's cannabis is the new PR term for it. So.
Okay, so
maybe that will get you less, ha-has when you say cannabis.
Yeah. But you talked about on the serious note, the medical side. Why? One of the reasons why it's becoming so accepted is it's helping people. It really is helping change lives, especially people who are having certain conditions.
The original bill for any kind of legalization or tolerance of cannabis was a bill that was put in place in San Francisco. And it's actually John Paulo Veronese, who's my government's relation director. His mom is the one who wrote it, and it wrote it for his dad, who had cancer, and he was going through chemo, and it was just tearing apart. And they, were very. My apologies. I thought I did that. Went the other way. They weren't a pro-cannabis family by any means. They were a political family. And, long story short, they found towards the end, when he was in his worst shape, that cannabis finally allowed him to eat, and they were able to hang out with him, and it just changed their world. There was, combined with that, that's the political side of it. Combined with that was AIDS was a huge thing during this time in San Francisco, and cannabis was being used for, all the ailments and sicknesses that were being caused from that. So there was just a great, perfect combination of cannabis. Oh crap! Cannabis was is a real medicine. This is not people just being hippies trying to get high. This is actually changing the lives of people who need it.
So it helps you to it increases your appetite, and it makes you want to eat more, which is definitely gonna help you, because not eating, you're gonna get really weak and fade away. But does it are there other medical aspects beyond the kind of the appetite piece and helping you to eat?
Absolutely. It's one of these. It's a miracle plant in the format that it has so many benefits in so many different arenas of medical and wellness. It really is completely amazing. And unfortunately, the way that the United States and then the rest of the world to follow created rules and laws against it. They created rules and laws so harsh that they wouldn't even tolerate the research and development of cannabis. So for the last 100 years, nobody was even allowed to research it. So they've really set back the amount of data that we should have, and the amount of subjective data that we should have. And so it's really it's hurt the knowledge that we should have on cannabis and its effects. But it is so well known by subjective, not objective, but people just using it. It's not just one person; it's another. It's hundreds of thousands of people that have had the same results that benefited them in some way for whatever health effect they were having.
What kind of what are people using it for other than cancer? So
pain,
if you got cancer, you're right. You need to kind of cope with the treatments, but it doesn't cure cancer.
Look, I'm not here to say that cannabis cures cancer,
Okay.
but there's a lot of people that believe very firmly that it has the ability and has cured cancer.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'm not a doctor. I know the benefits of it just by being around somebody who's sick and using it to eat and sleep and have a better functioning and a healthier life at the time. But there is CBD. There's ties to cannabinoids
I put
some of the stuff in the
CBD on
plants
joints and things like that, and it works.
Yeah, there's so much information. Again, it's not the kind of data that I would like to see the science behind it, but it's the same story in so many places around the world from people that don't know each other and that have no other reason to say this, that there's got to be some truth to it for sure.
What's the most healthy way to take it? I mean, you have edibles. I know you can smoke a joint, right?
Yeah, I mean, the natural plant flower dried out can just be ground and smoked, and that's the typical way that people use cannabis. But
is smoking it unhealthy?
I could imagine that it's unhealthy. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine in my own brain. Again, I'm far from a scientist over here, but it doesn't seem to make sense. That would be the healthiest way.
Okay.
Vapor. So now they have where you can heat the material up so hot that only the THC and cannabinoids come off the material, less carbon gets burned. Okay. That's a much healthier way. You see these vapor bags and these oils that people use in these pens, etc., all the way to tinctures and edibles. Yeah. And that's it. Literally, you're digesting the cannabinoids through the extraction of the material from the plant.
I know people that take edibles like to help them sleep at night.
Yeah,
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, how many I know so many people that had to take Ambien or Xanax or some other prescription medication that left them feeling drowsy or groggy or left them addicted to eating something every day that now found cannabis and take cannabis for those same issues and find benefit outside of just taking something different. They're finding that they don't have to take it as often. They could take less. It's natural. It's doesn't leave them drowsy in the morning. Lots of different things that edibles can be used for. Again, pain management on its own. Again, we're talking about a natural plant. We're not altering the state of this plant at all. And you can grow 6 plants in your backyard if you really need it. Very inexpensively, you can grow your own medicine in this format too.
Okay, so I'm going to switch subjects and go back a little bit. So this is definitely educational about the industry, and I think we could spend all day there. But I think you, as I described you at the beginning, you just one of the most likable people, extremely humble. You've had this tremendous success. You don't run in the spotlight, but you've had all this success, but you came from a tough upbringing, right? Which is kind of an interesting story. Would you mind going back in time? You said, I know there was entrepreneurship before the Kirby vacuum cleaners. It started early, sure. And you didn't have the what most people would say would be the ideal childhood, right? You kind of had to battle some stuff.
Sure, yeah. I mean, born out in the country of Northern California, the woods, lived my dad was a hardworking man, one amazing, taught me my work ethic, but we didn't have a lot. And, I also had some other, not normal childhood things happening with family. And so, finding entrepreneurship through wanting more, I wanted a candy bar, I wanted shoes, I wanted other things. I definitely, was somebody who found that sales of products, there's a cost and a margin, and so yeah, I definitely
probably even before you knew the term, so you knew what profit was.
Yeah, and so it's that hustle and then seeing results from it. It's what drove me, and it still does. I love creating. I love business. I love the aspect of creating profit for the business, for the people in the business, and to create sustainable things that can live forever, like business. That idea is incredible. I've done a bunch of businesses early. Not all were perfectly successful, luckily small, and went through my trials and tribulations to get to something where I had enough mentors around me, and I had kind of the right sauce that I just created some really cool stuff along with some really great people to help, and yeah, the success has been amazing.
Yeah, well, one of the things we say around here at Haney Biz and with the Growth Factory, we say nobody builds a truly great company alone. And I know you've been successful in putting teammates around you that understood the vision and would sort of run through a brick wall for you, with you. So many times I see that comes from the core values of the founder, right? As those line up with his or her teammates, it can really it can make a huge difference. I'm kind of wondering, like, where did you get your core values from? Is there someplace that came from? Because they're obviously attractive to these 150 employees you've got, and I know you've built other companies with a lot of employees.
Yeah, I believe that. That makes sense to me. Your word, right? That's a core value. When you say it, you do it. And I think hard work is another core value. I think one of my core values is fun. Right? I really enjoy having fun in life.
Yeah.
I'm a guy who can have a lot of fun, but also doesn't matter how much fun I had, I get right back to work if that fun that it wasn't work, because work is fun too. Mm-hmm. And I think that core value has attracted people around me that wanted to work hard but also have fun, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
Okay, what's fun look like to you today? You've had tremendous success. I know you've sold companies. You've had opportunities to celebrate. You can have fun in ways that a lot of us can't have fun yet.
Fun to me is a little mixture of all of it, right? Fun to me is really solid family time. You know, I have 2 beautiful daughters. I want to spend more time with them, and fun is doing what they think's fun or just hanging out with them. Fun is, traveling. I move around a lot. Fun is business. I love getting in the office and looking at challenges and working with the operators and looking at sales. That's all fun. So I think all of it's fun.
You don't want to narrow it down.
No, I mean, I couldn't do one thing. And I think we talk about retirement, and I don't. But what's retirement really? I don't really believe in retirement. So, because I really do enjoy the mixing of nothing's better than going on a nice weekend to go party. I mean,
in your own plane though too. It's a little more fun.
Yeah,
that
helps. That helps. But going with people that you enjoy and you have fun with, but you also have business with, right?
Yeah.
Because that creates more conversations and opens up your ability to communicate better with that individual or those people to come out with better ideas or do more business or whatever it is. So the mixing of all of it together, including fun, I think is what my fun is today.
Well, I have to imagine your employees. They like the fun piece. They love the commitment. The fact that you keep your commitments. But getting employees right now, I'm talking to employers all over the place who are having trouble getting workers, and I'm sort of wondering, is the cannabis business sort of facing those same, shortages?
It is. It is. Yeah. There's a big. We're seeing inflation, or we're seing increase in costs. Right?
Okay.
And
wage inflation.
Wage inflation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Where we were able to obtain, because we have a lot of different jobs, right? We have entry level labor jobs. We have tech jobs. We have. I know we're a cannabis company, but we're actually like a cannabis factory, right? Mm-hmm. So you have all these different layers of need from labor perspective or jobs, and in every category we're finding it difficult to hire for, and we're seeing the ability to get good people for a certain cost is going up by leaps and bounds at the moment. So we're growing. We need more people, right? And so that's affecting us big time. And I think it's affecting everybody. And
how many open positions do you guys have?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's greater than 10.
Wow. Yeah. We had somebody on the show the other day, and in the venture capital space. Actually, we were talking venture capital. He's a VC-backed company, and he came on the podcast, and we had one of these deeper conversations about, and got to know him, and he needs employees too, right? So his interview with me was helpful in getting him employees, because they found that they really connected with him and his values, and they said, you know what, I want to work with this guy, and it was helpful in making a recruitment. So I think about that. The more people understand, for me, it's like who I work. I got Rick and Scott sitting over there. Like, it's not even work when you're working with the people that you love and doing stuff that's fun. And it's like, if somebody listening or sees you can relate to that, it's like, oh shoot, I never really thought about maybe getting into the cannabis space,
Sure.
but that guy's cool, right? I could see more people knowing you as being helpful, because there's there's a celebrity factor, or there's an attractiveness I think that you have when people get to know you. So.
Let me get my list of people. I'm going to pitch my open positions right now. I didn't think about this, but yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think there's so much to do to recruit the right talent. I think somewhat, we're having this issue in general. And then there's also a factor of cannabis, right? Some people think it's really exciting. It's actually an attraction to them. And some people are nervous about it still. But I think by more of these types of conversations, and the more public, especially as the feds lay down, we'll have a bigger pool of people and talent to pull from, should I say. But, if I were to just pitch it for a second, is there's not a lot of businesses, a lot of industries, I should say, that have the kind of upside cannabis does, and not a lot of industries that have the resilience cannabis will have if we go through and when we go through a recession. Cannabis is recession proof. I went through it in 2008. More cannabis was consumed, more growers came on. Cannabis is one of those businesses where if and when we go through a recession or hardships in economic times, cannabis is not one that falls. So it's a really great business to look at from a career perspective, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you can get in with somebody, one of the things I think if there's somebody out there listening that might be a potential applicant for any company, if you go, because we invest into early stage companies, but if you can pick a winner and get on the horse early, get on the team early. Yeah. Put everything you have into your career, the upside can be, the opportunities can be amazing.
Absolutely. And we're doing the kind of things I think that are the right things to do just as a business, as a company. And I think the right thing to do as a person to share and to bring on the right talent. We have incentives, we have options. We're doing the kind of things that I hope are the right things to attract people. We're sharing the upside with the right talent and the right motivated people, which I think is fun too, because this is, the last couple of businesses I've exited, I've had 4 exits, 2 major exits, and both of the last 2 major exits I had, made some pretty successful people, and that's really freaking awesome. Not because they didn't deserve it; they deserved it all. But it's fun to watch that, and I want to do that again. I want to be a part of that again. Not me do it, but us do it. And so hopefully that's an attractive quality for somebody who may be looking for a career in the cannabis space.
Well, paint me a picture of what that might look like. Where is this company going? And I jump on board. I'm not very. I work hard. I don't have a lot of skills, but I can work hard, right? So I come in and, but I'll put everything I have into it. What might it look like? What will the company look like? It's 150 employees now. What might it look like? Or, will I be in a leadership position in 3 years, 10 years?
A couple good thoughts I've had when that question was out. And one is, we have like 80% of our leads, managers, and upper management they started in our business in a position that's not where they're at today. Meaning we are absolutely loyal, and we are looking to build talent. Build talent is the best talent. I'm a built talent. John Perino, who's been with me for the last 4 businesses, has been super successful with those exits, is still with us. And he started literally as a laborer for Vermicrop Organics. So I mean, he was an owner, is an owner, and so those kind of stories. We have a few more in our organization right now where they've come through with us for the last couple of businesses as somebody who started in a position, worked their way up, earned equity, and did really well for themselves. So that's definitely something that we focus on. Part of the culture. Let's hire from within first. If you got 2 candidates, identical, even if one has maybe just a slight differentiator, we're going to go for the inside candidate every single time. Internal posts, all those things. So I think that's a good thing to say, and it's the truth. The other aspect, what was the other second part of the question?
No, I was just kind of thinking, is if the company gets big, is there you had some exits? Does this thing get really big and
that's where we're going? Yes.
Does it get bought someday?
I can't sit still. This is probably the longest time I've sat in a chair for a while. I usually pace. They don't even give me a chair at our table at our office. Literally, I pace around the table. Lifestyle businesses. I am so incredibly impressed with so many amazing lifestyle businesses, right? And when I call lifestyle business, someone who's building a business and growing their business with no intent to maybe go public or sell their business, and it's really designed to take care of its employees and themselves, just as is. I love the idea of growing things and moving things into such a, I want it to be bigger than I will ever be able to handle it. I'm only doing this job long enough to do it until I find somebody who can do it better and take it to the next level. And so from that perspective, the growth factor, what we want for the business is to the stars, right? And that continues to provide opportunity for shareholders and employees and other partners of the business. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah,
150 employees today, with revenue targets that are, 100 times what we're doing today.
Wow.
Right. So we want to go to the moon. We want to go to the stars and get to the moon first on our way to the stars. But, and I'm, as my experience as, I've sold to 2 NASDAQ publicly traded companies. I continue to, use those networks to look for opportunities for our business, whether it's through strategic partnerships, whether it's through M&A, whether it's through IPO, just looking at what's the best thing we can do to grow our business. And then through those steps, liquidity events can happen for shareholders and stockholders and other things, and opportunities for, I got, we just sold GrowBiz, which is my last exit in November, to Grow Generation, GRWG, on the NASDAQ. Great company. We're similar businesses. They got public and they did a really good job at executing some M&A activities. So we sold to them, took equity play in it, which was wonderful. I have some of the guys and gals that were with GrowBiz have moved into, positions of much greater opportunity than they had when we were a 12-store chain. Now they're part of a 100-store chain, and I got guys that are, West Coast VPs and guys that were started as a register guy that's a West Coast VP. That's cool stuff to see. He had a part of it too, so he got a little paycheck. Now he's got this great career that continues to give him opportunity and others in the organization opportunity. So just things like that excite me. It's up to you. When you exit a business, there's either opportunity or fear. That's usually what people see, and the people that see opportunity grab it and they nail it. But that's why they work their way up to where they're at anyway, right? That's why a guy like that or a gal like that can take that opportunity and work from a cash register to where he was with us, and then take it to the next level. And so those opportunities are really cool, fun to watch.
Well, I love one of the things that I enjoy doing. I've always been this way, but I've sort of appreciated more today is being around really ambitious people who are driven, people who are more driven than I am, and it makes me want to push a little bit harder. And you and I are part of something called the Entrepreneurs Organization. Yeah. So we know each other really well outside of the show here, through the Entrepreneurs Organization and beyond. But when I'm around you and some of the other people in our group, I'm inspired, right? I'm the older guy in our group, but it makes me want to push harder. So if I had to say what the Entrepreneurs Organization has done for me, it's inspired me because the people in our forum specifically and even beyond, they're driven, and it makes me want to push a little bit harder too. It makes me believe in myself, or it makes me want to kick myself in the butt a little bit to try to catch a few of you guys. But so joining the Entrepreneurs Organization, you've been a member for the last few years. Yeah. What's it?
6, 7.
Has it been that long?
6 years, yeah.
Wow, time is flying. Okay, so when you think about the Entrepreneurs Organization, this would be a little shout out for EO. Absolutely. What is it to you?
So to me, it's absolutely amazing. It's a must. It's a very important part of my life now. I went through my career so far with mentors and surrounding myself with people who challenge me and who have desire to be more and be better and give more and do more. And I don't have a high school diploma, right? So I didn't finish 9th grade. I had self-taught, self-educated, and when I say self, meaning I find people who are willing to give me time and benefit, hopefully them through other means of what I'm getting. And EO has been that. So I reluctantly started with EO because everything else I'd seen kind of from an organizational perspective was networking, right? Mm-hmm. And this was the first time I had been part of something it was really about help. Right? It was really about sharing experiences with other like-minded individuals who were different enough where you could gain a lot. But to circle back to what EO is extremely important to me in my life. And, the friendships that I've created in our EO and EO in general has been amazing. It's a big part of my success today, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
I got to hang out with guys like you, man.
well, you know, there's
I was just a pot guy before this, and I get to hang out with these other
now you're hanging out
entrepreneurs.
the Mark Haney.
I mean, it's amazing. So
yeah, EO's been it's great. It's you know, it's a non-profit, bunch of entrepreneurs that get together and form a club. And I think our forum is special. We've got you know, like Tyler Smith, who's blowing up Sky Slope, and Uriah Faber, and you know, I go on and on about the people that we respect and that we love that are part of EO. So it really is. Sounds like a commercial for EO, and I suppose it is a little bit.
But it's real though.
It's not for everybody. It's for the growth-minded entrepreneur that's built a business to a certain size. But if you are interested in that, hit me up, and I'll get you connected up. I'm the past president of EO. I've got my EO hat over there that I never wear.
What an amazing organization! I mean, it gets not only gives so much for us in our forums and stuff, but it's so cool that you give it time. You spend time. I try to give back time. I haven't given enough, and I will more over time. But it's so great that you get these guys who have zero time. Like they don't have an extra second. You're making that second when you give it to actually go in and be a president, to go in and sit on the board and do these things. So kudos to EO for that, and there's a reason for it. So
you betcha. Yeah, I think it's some of it's it's interesting because you get what you put into something, so it comes back around. So I think that's a lot of things. A lot of times people don't realize that if you put in effort into anything, whether it be Little League or some other charitable organization or EO, if you really commit to it, you typically get something back out of it in one way or another. So I feel like I've gotten some of that out of EO through friendships, and I've learned a lot too. So
yeah, me
like
too.
you.
Tremendous amount.
Okay, so we're kind of running out of time, but I want you to be able to sort of share with our audience anything else you want to share about your business or your life, and then maybe some advice for the up and comers, the people that want to be like Ross Haley, want to build a significant business. So overall thoughts and maybe advice to the next guy in line.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show. I just took advantage of this to hang out with you, and that's cool. But I talk about a few things when it comes to success and business success specifically is stay in the game, right? The one thing you can't win is a game you're not in, right? So it's like the never give up, failure's not an option. Small fails are, but big fails are not. So, never give up. Just stay in the game. We talk about it all the time. It's like, how do we win? We just don't fail. Yeah. And if you just don't fail long enough, you'll win big.
Just keep going. Just keep getting back up.
Just go.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's I have a very strong mentor who says, I said, what's the three main things? And it's audacity is one of them. Right. Give an F. I won't drop the F bomb, but it's care. Right. Care. So those are huge. Audacity. Caring.
And audacity is kind of like courage or boldness.
Boldness, exactly. And never give up. So get out there and move. And when stuff gets hard, caught myself there. When stuff gets hard, get harder.
Yeah, get harder. I love it. That could be a Markism. When stuff gets hard, get harder. That's my new Markism. Ross Haley, the founder, president, CEO of LBS, and so much more. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.